Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for Medifecos and Professor Maslow to have invited me to give a talk. I was listening to all the speakers before, and I realized that we have gone far ahead with keratoconus management.
Nice place.
And I wish to inform that I have nothing to disclose and I have no financial interest. Okay. The new Kerr-Ring vacuum system for mechanical dissection. In my part of the world, we are still going on mechanical dissection because intralase or any other femtosecond laser procedures is going to be expensive to the patient. And we are also in a time that many of our keratoconus patients have already undergone collagen cross-linking, and these patients come to us for further treatment for intracorneal rings. Okay, we have usually manual tunneling and femtosecond laser tunneling, which is the in thing these days, but it is expensive for my patients. And in manual tunneling, it is much cheaper to perform, but we have problems with patients who have already had cross-linking done. And when we are doing the procedure, it's really difficult to insert the rings. And the depth of tunneling may also vary depending on the cooperation of the patient, because the eyeball will keep on moving. Now, this is the instrument set that we use, and the most important part in this set of instrument is a diamond ring and also the tunnelizers. The previous tunnelizers were huge, and we had 2 sizes, and it was difficult to handle, especially when you want to record your surgery under the microscope. While you're on the microscope, sometimes we do not even get a good view, and the eyeball is so wobbly that it goes out of the range of the camera itself. And in manual tunneling, sometimes we can have complications such as extrusion of the ring, or you could have placed it so superficially that after a few days the epithelium just erodes away and the ring gets exposed. Okay. Of course, with manual tunneling, so much of manipulation, we used to see a lot of exudates along the ring, and I used to wonder whether it was an infection or just some exudates. So I'd like to show you the manual tunneling video. Of course, like all cases, we mark the corneal surface. And this is a patient that I have done on the nasal side, a conventional tunneling, and on the temporal side with a new system. Now, I have to hold the eyeball with an instrument, and the patient is under local anesthetic, and you can see that the eye keeps on moving. And because we are holding the eye in various areas, and the conjunctiva gets sometimes traumatized, and next day the patient has got a big subconjunctival hemorrhage, which is quite annoying to the patient. Now, it's so much of trouble to do the tunneling, and this patient has not even had a collagen cross-linking. Okay. Now, using a femtosecond laser can be very, very expensive to the patient, and wound of entry sometimes may require suturing to prevent extrusion. Now, in the vacuum tunneling system, which was recently introduced by Professor Maslow to me, is a very, very simple piece of equipment. You've got a vacuum ring, which actually fits most of the eyeballs. In my country, we have a lot of Chinese patients with very, very small eye, and we do not lose very much of the suction with this ring. And then the tunnelizers have also changed. No more those bulky tunnelizers, but simple tunnelizers which you can hold very well. And this is a very simple apparatus to handle. Again, you are doing everything under local anesthetic. Patient is also not uncomfortable. The pupil doesn't get dilated, and there was not much of pressure. Okay, this is the same patient. On the nasal side, I was trying to do the manual tunneling, and in this side, on the temporal side, I have used the vacuum ring. You can see that the vacuum handle is useful for holding the eyeball, and it is so much easier to perform the tunneling. The only problem that can happen is if there is too much of pressure, there can be an accidental perforation. Like this patient, you can see that the site of the ring is higher, but there was endothelial perforation. But still, once we realized that there was a give when we were inserting the ring, we took it out the next day and replaced it at a different plane, and it went on fine. Okay, these are the newer tunnelizers, which are much slimmer and easier to picture it. And these are the instruments again. Now, there are other vacuum tunneling systems in the market, I think, and these are all quite bulky, and it's also used by other companies, but not popular in in Asia yet. And therefore, doing this conventional and vacuum tunneling, is there a difference in our pre-op or post-op results? There's not much of a difference, except that when we use the vacuum tunnelizers, the post-operative results were a little bit better than the ones where we use the conventional tunneling. And even the astigmatism was not much of a difference, and therefore it did not really affect the placement of the rings or the changes in the astigmatism, and mean SIMK is not so different either. Therefore, the advantage of vacuum tunneling shows that early data in my results show that it has got slightly better clinical outcomes compared to the conventional tunneling, because the patient recovers faster, better vision, and there's a little bit of better corneal shaping. Differences are very minor, but the results are consistent, especially when we are doing the surgery, and there is a remarkable advantage when in the intraoperative period, and it's much of an easier tunneling procedure to do. Maybe by next meeting, I'll be able to present my results with a femtosecond tunneling. Thank you very much.